talk about how to remember words or how to remember groups of things. Now, in the other sessions, I've talked about our mind, our amazing brain, thinks in pictures. And when you add feelings and when you add movement and when you add sounds and play them in your head, then your memory is improved, because what you are doing is you are linking something from your subconscious brain to your conscious brain. You're bringing it out of the big filing cabinet that we have in our brains. And in our very first session, we talked about how the brain takes on information and how it deletes, distorts, or puts it into a filing system for you to pull it out. And all it does, it adds a peg to it. So here's a little peg, and I'm going to be using my peg later. But what it does is it links it to something else. So when you're trying to remember words, or you're trying to remember sentences or sequences, why don't you try and create a word or a sentence that is easy to remember, it's easy to put in a picture, and then you can use that sentence to bring out the information. So one that jumps to mind for me, I talk a lot about starting. S-T-A-R-T, start. I talk a lot about that. Now, what people don't realise is that actually those letters stand for something. They stand for state your intention. What techniques, tools, tricks are you going to use? What action are you going to take? Your action plan. The R is reviewing that action plan and changing it. And the T is two things. It's how are you going to work with someone else, your team, and how are you going to use time investment strategies. And that spells out the word start. I also have something called stop, S-T-O-P. And I've talked about that before in one of these sessions. Stand back, take a breath, look at the options, and take a positive step forward. And they help me when I am talking about starting and stopping. And then I know all the background around those, and I can talk about the tips, the strategies, etc. So that's how I remember those. And these are common, I can't say the word, I was trying to say it before when I was practicing, mnemonics. Mnemonics. Well, anyway, using tips to help your memory. Now, you might have used some of these in school. So you might have remembered in schools, or you might have heard something, Richard in York gave battle in vain. Do you remember that one? Richard in York gave battle in vain. Well, they are the colours of the spectrum. Yeah? Red, Richard, and get green, you get it all. Richard gave, so you've got all that there. What about trying to remember words that is difficult to spell? One of the words that some people can't spell is arithmetic. So a sentence for arithmetic is, a rat in the house may eat the ice cream. A rat in the house may eat the ice cream, which spells A-R-I-T-H-M-E-T-I-C. A rat in the house may eat the ice cream. And you've now got an image of a rat in a house eating an ice cream. Don't worry about the little words like the and the in. They will come naturally. Some people can't spell the word because. Big elephants can always understand small elephants. Big elephants can always understand small elephants. What about the word necessary? Necessary is a good one. People can't remember the word necessary. Not every cat eats sardines. Some are really yummy. Not every cat eats sardines. Some are really yummy. So this is using a word that you can turn into a picture or a little story, and each letter of that word gives you a clue to how to spell the word you try and remember. So you've got your key word, you break it into a little story, put that image in your head, say it a couple of times, and that retains in your head. One I used to always forget how to spell was tomorrow, T-O-M-O-R-R-O-W. And I remember that one, Tales of My Old Red Rose Over Window. It doesn't make real sense, does it? Tales of My Old Red Rose Over Window. But what it does, it reminds me that there's two R's, the red rose. And that's what I was not remembering. And then I don't now, when I write tomorrow or type tomorrow, I don't now think of that rhyme. It just has stuck it in my head. It's made it stick in. All right. What about then some things if you want to remember an order of stuff? Now, I don't know if anybody is a musician here, but the treble clef goes E, G, B, D, F. Okay? Every good boy deserves fun. Every good boy deserves fun. That's where you can do an interesting way of doing it. What about the order of the planets? I like this one. The order of the planets. So you all know the order of the planets, or it goes Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, or Uranus, if you don't use the word Uranus. Uranus. Anyway, doesn't matter what the word is. That's the order of the planets. Well, the way I remember this is there's two ways actually. You can use the northern way, and please do excuse my accent. I'm going to do in a moment, or you can use the posh way. So the northern way is my very excited mother served us 9 pies. My very excited mother just served us 9 pies. Or you can use the posh one. My very educated mother just served us noodles. My very educated mother just served us noodles. And that gives you the planets. And the last little tip here is, I think this is a great one. This one makes you look and feel a bit clever. Okay, it's when someone says, "Who was the first 8 presidents of the United States?" And this is for our American colleagues here. I remember that as, "Will a jolly man make a jolly visitor? Will a jolly man make a jolly visitor?" And that's George Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, then Adams, again, Jackson, and the last one was Van Buren. Martin Van Buren, that was his name. So that's what I use that one, okay? So you get the idea. You get the idea. And then the last one here is using words and converting them into numbers. So I'm sure all the scientists in the house know the order of pi, 3.1415927. And I must admit I have that written down on the screen, so I remembered it. I could say it quickly. 3.1415927. That's pi, okay? And this is, you could remember that in 2 ways. You could remember that, so you could remember it in a sentence, and here's the sentence. May I have a large container of coffee? May I have a large container of coffee? And it's quite delicious. So if you break that down, may I have a large container of coffee, each one of those words has the number of in pi. May has 3, I has 1, have has 4, A has 1, large has 5, large container of coffee has 9, of has 2, and then you can put the end question mark, which makes the 7 at the end. Now, what I've just done then is I've linked it, as you can see, to something quite visual. This is my large container of coffee. May I have a large container of coffee? Question mark, and there is the number of pi. Right, so mnemonics, that's what we've just discussed. We've just discussed those. If you've got any that you know, please pop them in the chat. And what it does, it'll make people think, oh, I know that, I remember that, and it'll help us remember. So the next part of today's session is about remembering where you put things. Now, who has ever done this? Who has ever done this? They've gone, right, where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? Where have I put my glasses? Where are my glasses? I'm searching for my glasses. And they're right on the top of your head. You ever done that? Or have you ever put the polish into the fridge? I've done that. You know, you polish and you dust around, automatically open the fridge, and I stuck it in the fridge. Why do we do silly things like that? Well, quite simply is because we don't engage our mind when we do those routine things. So I often put my glasses on my head like that. I often put, my glasses like that, and I forget that they're on the top of my head, even though if I consciously now feel my head, I know where my glasses are, they're on the top of my head. But sometimes if I've got 2 pairs of glasses, I'm trying to find a pair here. Have you ever done this one? Have you ever got another pair of glasses and found your other pair of glasses and then put your glasses on top like that? I've done that, and I've walked around the house like that with 2 pairs of glasses on, which is ridiculous. So the reason why I don't remember is because I'm not consciously thinking about it. It's the same when I put the polish in the fridge. Simply, I had something in my hand, which you normally do when you go to the fridge, open the fridge door, the refrigerator door, and put it in. Doesn't matter what it was. It's just automatic. So when you're in those type of routines, what you've got to do is break the routine and know that you're putting your glasses on your head. So I often just remind myself, I'm just putting my glasses on my head and have a little chat in my head and say, glasses on your head, Steve. It's the same with car keys. Do you forget where your car keys are? Or do you forget where your front door keys are? Now, that's because you're not consciously thinking about where you're putting the door keys, where you're putting them down. You're not consciously thinking about it. Some of you, and I do this, maybe you can't remember whether you locked the front door or not when you've gone out. And that's because you just do it automatically. Close door, keys in, lock, and you don't think, you don't engage your brain, okay? So that one of the tricks to remember where you put things and if you've done things is just add that little step to remind yourself. So actually talk to yourself in your head. Talk to yourself and say, I've just locked the door, or the keys are in the pot, or the keys are on the side. And actually say that into your head, and that will help it stick in to your brain. Another little tip about if you don't know where you've put things is basically put them in the same place. Put them in the same place all the time, right? Have a spot where you put things. So I personally have a small bowl that is in the house. Never have your keys near your front door when you lock up and all that. A small bowl, and in that I throw any loose change and I throw my keys in, and that's where they live until the morning when I need them again. That bowl does not move, it's always used. If the keys are put elsewhere, I can see on my service stops the keys are in the wrong place, I put them in the bowl. And also that emptying of the small change in my pocket helps, and then I use that when I'm in the car. You know, I have a little pot in the car which has got small change in for parking. So that's a way of remembering where you put things. What about that thing about have I locked the front door? Well, what I like to do is I like to add a confirmation to the action that I've just done. So when I lock my front door, I actually check, you know, the lock, check it to see it's locked, and I go 1, 2, 3, locked. 1, 2, 3, locked. It sounds silly. 1, 2, 3, locked. But what I'm doing is I'm adding an anchor, a peg into my brain. I'm adding a peg into my brain to say 1, 2, 3, locked, and it's an anchor. It's not only a sound anchor, but it's also a movement anchor. Another tip, pegs. You got these clothes pegs? These are fantastic. These are a way of remembering where important documents are. And what you do, if you know you're going to be using that important document and you need it, pop a peg on it. Pop a peg on it. Pop a peg. Pop a peg. What could that be? Pop a peg. Pop a peg on it. And then that just goes, and you know it's important. And the reason why it's important is, the reason why you know it's important, you can see it, but it also adds weight to the document. And often what I will do is if I'm working on 3 or 4 things at any one time, I will focus obviously on one thing at a time. We know we do that, but I will pop a peg on it just to know where it is and remind me. It also reminds me that I've got to deal with that today. This is the important peg that I do, okay? And you can buy little fancy pegs. You can buy like clothes pegs. I just use clothes pegs like that, okay? And that's one way to peg something and remember it. So that's a tip there, okay? So we've got a small little place to put things. We've got that remembering, you know, using a little sort of like a confirmation. I've locked the door, that type of thing. I put my keys in the pot, and then we talked about using a peg. And this is the last tip, folks. The last tip for remembering things, where you've put things or where you've stored something important. You ready? Ground shattering, breaking tip. This one. Write it down. Get a piece of paper or have a little notebook and just write it down. Get in the habit of writing it down. Little note to yourself. We can't remember everything. We talked about that in our first session. So just write it down. So if it's a document, for example, your house information, have a little notepad and just write house information in drawer by, and do it like that. Or I'm trying to think of something that that say something for the car. You those little those wheel nuts that you have for the car. Write it down in your pad that says car as a section, wheel nuts in bottom drawer in kitchen. I know it's sort of adding a step for stuff, but they're the little niggly things, right? Have you ever spent time looking for something when actually you could have just gone to your little reference system and gone, oh, I know where the wheel nuts are. They're in the bottom drawer because it's in my pad. Oh, where's the deeds to the house? Oh, they're locked away in there, so it's a little pad. And I know we're sort of trying to keep things in our mind and trying to not have pads of pieces of paper, and be clever to remember the numbers in pi, and to be clever to remember who the American presidents were. But sometimes you just have to write it down. So lots of things there. We first talked about using words and numbers in creative ways. We also talked about how we can, put those words into a small picture that remind, and it kicks off your brain and you can remember what you wanted to remember. And then we talked about putting things away properly, and we talked about little places to put things, confirmation, the door's locked, Steve, that type of stuff, writing it down and using pegs. The last thing I actually did forget to say was also what does help with memory and where you put things is keeping things in order. Get rid of the clutter, have clear surfaces. And I try every week to clear, well, I don't try, I do. Every Friday, I clear my desk. Wait a minute. I get the rag out. I get the polish out. And what I do is I polish my desk, make it nice and clean for the next week, and then you tend to be able to find things. So that's me done for today. I hope you enjoy that. Next session, we're going to be talking about how to remember people's names.